Welcome back to another episode of Let's Face the Facts. I'm your host, I'm David Almeida. I'm an actor in Central Florida, and every week I sit down with an actor or artist friend. We watch an episode of the classic sitcom, The Facts of Life, and then I hit record and we talk about the show and pretty much anything and everything else it might inspire us to discuss. My guest this week is Patty Hawkins. Patty is super fun guy. He's an actor, an improviser, a stand-up comic, a pop culture convention panel host. And if you keep listening, you will also hear him use the phrase, which I love, a cultural translator. We recorded the show over Skype due to social distancing because we are in the midst of this crazy coronavirus stuff that's going on. If you do not know what I'm talking about, have a look on the Twitter or on the Instagrams and you might see some information and get yourself up to speed. But yeah, I'm not sure it's really hit the press yet, you know. Anyway, I'm trying to do my part and stay home and not leave the house any more than I have to. I'm still making shows. I'm actually banking quite a few shows, so it's thankfully a productive time for the podcast while I'm not actually able to work at the theme parks and attractions. So the shows should keep on coming as long as I am healthy and able to make them. I'm going to keep on posting them every Wednesday, so keep tuning in. Before we begin, I do need to say hello to my new Patreon supporter, Jonathan H. Hi, Jonathan. Welcome to the family. I actually stalked Jonathan a little bit, and I found out he's an artist, and he's got some really cool artwork, including some Facts of Life themed artwork. So I'm going to post that on the website. Check out the webpage for this episode. And speaking of Patreon, as you know, I hate to harp on it. You can support the show. Now is not the time to be asking people for a handout for something that is completely not a necessary expense. But just FYI, I did create a new $1 level. I didn't want to get into tiers. I didn't want to get into levels. But I thought, I like being able to say the phrase, you can support the show for as little as $1 a month. That's something I like saying. Now, the $1 level will get you the shout out. It does not give you access to the other content, but just for joining, you do get to have a peek back to many of the things I have previously posted, because when you create a new level, you then have to go back and retroactively alter each and every post to reflect which tier, which level gets to see it, and I just can't. It's way too much. So that's my coronavirus gift to you. If you during this time are crazy enough to say I'm going to send him $1 a month, you'll get access to a good portion of the previously posted things for the Patreon supporters, but going forward, well, if you want the extras and the fun stuff, you do gotta pay the $3. And that's just, I hate it, the sordid topic of coin, but every other podcast does it, so why oh why can't I? In other Patreon news, one of my supporters, named Jennifer B., she reports to me that seasons 6 and 7 of The Facts of Life are now available on Sony Crackle. I had previously reported that some of the shows were available there. I think we were, like, season 4 was there. It's just been weird, because it was like they were there, then they're not, and now it looks like different seasons. I just don't get why the entire series can't just sit and exist on Prime Video, on Netflix, on Hulu. I don't get why it's still floating around there in these other weird places. It's like, I wish it would. I don't know what has to happen to get it there, but it just makes me sad, because in a perfect world, you'd be able to just access the episodes instantaneously and then listen to my show. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Let's get on to this week's show. This week, my guest, Patty Hawkins, and I watched Season 4, Episode 20, called Who's On First. The original air date was March 30th, 1983. And that's it. Let's just jump on in. Via Skype, let's face the facts with Patty Hawkins. Patty Hawkins, welcome.
Thank you.
Hello.
So it's a pleasure to be here.
Smoking a stogie drinking coffee because you're by remote, and I would wager you don't have any pants on, do you?
I do have pants, but they're my comfortable lazing around the house pants, which are also my workout pants. So it's the best of both worlds. That's a nice thing. You can get away with a lot. When I go out in public and I don't feel like showering, then I just put on my gym clothes.
Oh, I do that all the time. Like going from work because I'm going to be a sweaty mess anyway. It's just like, it's a no-brainer, really. Welcome. Glad to have you, even though we technically are both in town. You're about 20 miles away, I would guesstimate. But we're in a social distancing mode due to this thing that I understand the kids are calling the coronavirus. Have you heard of this?
I heard it goes well with Lyme disease. But seriously, kids today, my mother-in-law. Yeah. So anyway.
But we'll move on and talk about your stand-up career soon enough.
Yeah, I don't have one.
You had a chance to watch the show, I hope.
Oh, yes.
And so we watched season 4, episode 20. It's called Who's On First. The original air date was March 30th of 1983. And interesting point, there had been a 2-week hiatus previous to this broadcast. This Wednesday night show had been preceded by a repeat on March 16th. And then on March 23rd, it was an hour-long celebration of Taxi. And because Taxi had just moved to NBC this season.
Curious thing about that switchover, too, is that really did not happen. It's still kind of a rare. Now we're kind of used to things maybe starting off on a network and then a streaming platform will pick it up. One of my favorite shows, Longmire, was saved and stuff this would do. But that Taxi switchover?
Yeah. That
was really, really rare. There's a few other things, too. Mama's Family also bounced from network to network. And curiously enough, the original Adam West Batman series was actually going to be saved. Another network was actually going to pick it up and keep rolling with it. Unfortunately, they already struck the sets, and they didn't want to invest in rebuilding the Batcave set and stuff like that. So that's how we only ended up with 3 seasons of Adam West.
And a recent example of that would be Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Fox canceled it, and it's an awesome show. Do you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
I'm aware of it. I really should. I've seen snippets of it, and I enjoy it.
I recommend it. It's very funny. Fox canceled it for some stupid reason, and NBC went, gimme. This is a good quality show, and it's hard to come by this shit on network television right now, and this is ready out of the box. So I hope it lasts a while. Unlike Taxi, which only did it, ABC had canceled it, NBC took it, and this season where we are right now, The Facts of Life, is where it is the last season. NBC did it for a season and went, I guess maybe not.
Yeah.
And
so before we go into this episode, I want to ask you as the lifelong expert about this, because I'm just off of my own notes. And for long-time viewers, too, bear with me. So is it safe to say at this point the series had kind of hit its stride?
Yes.
Yeah, because I know at the beginning, the spinoff and Mrs. Garrett and trying it out, and God bless them for investing in Charlotte Rae. I mean, really, again, that's I would not, her role and her character at Different Strokes, I would not have said, well, can we spin her off into another series?
Yeah, as a breakout star, I think the word you might use is unlikely. And really, yeah, I agree with you. That was how bad times were in 1980 as far as the networks. I mean, NBC had nothing.
NBC was at the bottom.
Yeah, NBC was in the bottom of the bottom. And the fact that they had Different Strokes that suddenly caught any interest anywhere. Spin it off, do something. It was like, that was what a desperate grab. And
NBC was so low at that time that the previews for Cheers was just was Shelley Long, was that her name? Yeah.
Ted Danson and Shelley Long.
It was Shelley Long just like, guess what? The best comedy next season is going to be on NBC. That's right, NBC. it was literally using its own. They were embracing their own reputation as being the network that nobody watched, trying to get people to too. So the amazing bit is that it was a successful, well written, and good show. Usually you see hubris like that, and you're like, the best show next season is going to be Super Trade here on ABC, which everybody's talking about now because Lyle Wagner, rest his soul, just passed away. And I was the first person to say, you know what, after Carol Burnett and after Wonder Woman, he should have done more instead of like Love Boat. But I always say too, but he was on the premiere episode of Super Trade.
Oh, was he?
Yes, he was.
Oh, I did not know that.
He was Zaza Gabor's boyfriend, love interest, ingenue, whatever.
And she was like 30 years older than he.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. But, Lyle Wagner, I know you're not a homosexual like myself, but, so fuckable. Good God, he is sexy and hot.
He was, as I wrote in my little thing too, he had this very... He was like old school, like Ascot, handsome, but almost like in a cartoonish way. But he played it up so well, and I often thought too that again, Wonder Woman the series struck such a chord with so many gay men of my generation that I'm thinking it was part Wonder Woman, but I also think a lot of that was this Lyle Wagner's just ding and his absolute sexual innocence.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed that his presence there is definitely a factor. Back to your original question was that, season 1 was the shit show where for 13 episodes, they really did not do very well. And it was season 2 when they said, let's clean the slate. And as I said before, NBC was in such dire straits. They said, it's easier to fix this awful show, or at least try to fix a show we already have up and running versus trying to develop a whole new show from scratch. So Facts of Life was absolutely a product of its circumstances and benefited greatly from NBC's low place on the totem pole, and then later from its time slot too.
And you and I, as actors, have been on both sides of the eraser in our careers.
Yes.
Sometimes this isn't working. Let's make some adjustments. And sometimes we've survived that, and sometimes we haven't.
Yeah, you know it. And we see it on television all the time where it's like, you know what? Rhoda, let's have her be divorced. And it's like, no. I like Joe. As a kid, I wanted Rhoda to be with Joe. How dare you?
We think Richie should be the only boy in the Cunningham family.
Yeah, exactly. Chuck who? Yeah. And on my daughter's wedding day, my 2 beautiful children, Howard? Okay, but back to this episode. It was directed by Asad Kelada, Kelada. He directed every episode this season. And he directs the most of all the Facts of Life episodes in its 9-year run. Wow. After this, he will go on to direct most, if not all, of the Who's the Bosses. This episode was written by Kimberly Hill. She was a story editor for most of season 4. Previously, she had written for Soap. After this, she would go on to write for One Day at a Time. But she has producer credit on 24 episodes, writing credits for 7 episodes. So she's involved in this. She's not a one-hit wonder. So before we start, 2 things I like to ask my guests. First of all, do you have any connection with the show? As far as, did you ever watch the show before I asked you to watch this?
I did not watch it. I want to say there were just times when it quickly flipped over into syndication. I want to say that it very quickly, while it was still on, maybe around this time, around season 4, it had already been jumped into syndication. And I want to say maybe it's 2. The only episode plotline I can adequately remember is just when Mrs. Garrett got a new beau, and it turns out to be a really much younger man, and it's very looked upon with suspicion.
That must still be coming up. I don't remember this one.
Yeah. The girls are all excited, and then she says goodnight to him. They see him walk away, and he's like a guy in his like maybe early 30s or something, and the audience is like, oh, not the sexy ooh, it's like the oh. something's wrong here or something. Which is odd because not for nothing. I mean, Charlotte Rae was about 56 at the time. I think of this episode, 56, 57. And I was like, and we'll come up with this. There are parts in this episode like she's still got a good body for her age. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. So otherwise, no, because I was a teenage kid and the show was not for me. And the weird bit
demographic.
Is, yeah,
and you weren't a gay kid with no friends like I was. So yeah.
I was a heavy metal kid with very geeky friend with little friends. So yeah, I was watching something else. But the weird bit is, it wasn't like something. If somebody would say it, you'd like poo poo. Like being full of piss and vinegar at that age. Like if somebody mentioned Duran Duran, it's like, oh, I hate those guys. It's totally gay or whatever. It's like, nobody. If you said, if you said Facts of Life, or I'd be like, yeah, my sister watches that show. But
exactly.
That'd be
my friend Trampus watches the show. Fag. But yeah. Okay, so the next thing I always ask of my guests is just to give us a quick flavor of what we're about to be talking about. Would you please give a 1 to 2 sentence, very short synopsis of the entire episode, maybe like the listing you might see in a TV guide?
Tonight, on a very special episode of The Facts of Life, the girls learn the importance and the power of friendship and jealousy.
Ooh, nice. Ooh, you added some intrigue. You added some announcery stuff. That's awesome.
Yes, well, if you add a very special episode, that's like, oh, wow, it's something dirty.
Yeah. So we've got, did I mention before that we have Lyle Waggoner is apparently going to be a through line of this, that we're going to talk about him again shortly as we go through this?
No problem with that.
He is going to be coming into play. So now we're going to go through the real nuts and bolts of the episode. So we start in the first scene and we start in the cafeteria. We've got Blair filling out college applications. She is confident. Joe mentions that she's got some money, and we have Joe saying that she is going to buy some stocks in the stock market. And Blair says, well, I'm a rich person, so obviously, even though I'm 18 years old, and, who knows if she can even do math other than counting her money, but she's like, you need advice from me. So Blair basically says, I will help you. That's fine. And then enter Tootie and Natalie with this boy. And very quickly, we realize Natalie has a huge crush on this boy whom she met at Bates Academy, the boys' neighboring school about a mile away, where they were at a basketball game. And he gave Natalie and Tootie a ride back, and Natalie is just fawning. And what we have here, Patty, you don't realize this is super rare. You are watching an episode of Facts of Life with an A story and a B story. Really? That doesn't happen. Right up to the end of the series in 1988, the vast majority are one story, one through line, like a Lucy episode, like a Dick Van Dyke episode. Yeah. That really hadn't hit yet until the 90s, with the idea of an A story and a B story that are only vaguely related. So this was very unusual, and I couldn't believe it as it was happening. I was like, oh my God.
If that was the first time that they did it, then I have to admit, then it slid in very well. It kept everybody busy because, yeah, you're right. If you have just one story, then, oh God, everybody's got to contribute to the plot. And what's it going to be? All the girls get involved in this relationship and everything else. It doesn't really quite, it doesn't work. I mean, an A story to B story, just, you separate it too. And as long as you sort of tie them up at the end, and then it's, and they realize this too later on too. It helps a lot with just production wise. Oh, okay. We're shooting the B plot tomorrow. We don't even need you today. So
yeah.
Go on.
Oh, totally. Or just, we do one setup, bring in the set and do that half of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Two
things two very pop culture jokes for its time are right out of the gate. Right out of the gate. Yes. She makes a Calvin Klein joke.
Yes.
And again, for you youngins out there,
Calvin Klein
You look up designer jeans 1980s, and I'm so surprised nobody's made a full documentary about what a strange, peculiar fad that was and how it completely disappeared. Nobody cares about designer jeans anymore like everybody kind of did in the early to mid 80s. So that's a good throw out. And
they do still sell Calvin Klein jeans. I wear Calvin Klein jeans, and I get them at Costco. I shit you not. That's where you can get them now. So they're not quite the same niche audience they were before in the 80s.
For a while, Jordache, all that stuff. Ooh la la, Sassoon.
You've got the look. I want to know better. Yep. That was Jordache, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, there was designer jeans were a curious social currency at the time, and so very much of the pop culture. And of course, she makes the E.F. Hutton joke without buttoning it, but she buttons it at the end.
Yeah, and I didn't like the button at the end. But she says, Joe says, you know about stocks? And she's like, I'm a Warner. When I talk, everybody listens.
And for those of you who don't know, there was an investment firm, E.F. Hutton, who ran a very successful program, commercials where people would say, well, my broker is E.F. Hutton. E.F. Hutton says, and then everybody in the restaurant would stop what they're doing to listen to what this guy's about to say, what E.F. Hutton says.
Or everybody on the train or whatever.
Yes.
I think they've done that reference before, and I think I did post one or two of those commercials. But yeah, those were a big thing. And so that's why later at the end, when Joe says, hey, that was shitty advice you gave me, she's like, well, who do I look like, E.F. Hutton? Yeah. And so it's like, if anything, to our modern audiences, some kid who doesn't know that would think that is two references to two things that they don't know what they are. It's like, but they're connected. They really are.
Yeah. So Natalie's obnoxiously goo-goo over this boy.
And this boy, we didn't want to talk about this boy. His name is Gil Haney. Odd name, Gil, for a boy in the 80s? Like Gilbert? Yeah, I mean, okay.
Gil Gerard was kind of a sex symbol at the time.
He was in his 30s. Come on. Anyhow, Gil Haney is played by actor Jeffrey Rogers. He doesn't have that many credits, but the one main credit that you see is he was in a starring role of a movie called Surf 2. That came out in 84.
The end of the trilogy.
Are you kidding or are you serious?
I am not making that up. You look up the commercials. Surf 2, the end of the trilogy.
Well, because there was never a Surf 1. The Surf 2, literally, the movie Surf 2 is a freestanding. I don't remember that. I mean, I was around in 84, but I don't remember the movie.
The teen sex comedies, it wasn't the type of sex you were interested in.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I haven't seen it in decades. I think in the early 90s it rolled over on Showtime at like 2 a.m. and I caught it. But yeah, and like another 80s reference, R-rated teen sex comedies. After the success of the Porky's franchise, were just all over the place. Hard Bodies, Where the Boys Are 84.
All that, definitely. But the police, who are, I assume, the adults who have to deal with all the crazy shenanigans of all the kids in this movie. The two police officers are played by Ron Palillo, Horshack from Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yes.
He plays Deputy Underwear. And his boss is Chief Boyardee, played by Lyle Waggoner. That is our Lyle Waggoner. But
my goodness,
it's on YouTube. I will post the link to this. The entire movie is on YouTube. Tits and everything. I, by the way, will point out how funny that stuff sneaks on by. But yeah, the only thing I'll say about this actor Jeffrey Rogers, he and Eric Stoltz are the two big stars of the movie, like big time. And the audio commentary on another movie he appeared in, Friday the 13th, Part 3. Jeffrey Rogers is now a doctor in New York. I did do a Google search and I could not find him. But yeah, in Friday the 13th, Part 3, he plays Andy. Most memorable that while his girlfriend is in the shower, he's outside the shower in his jeans walking on his hands. At which point Jason shows up and he sees Jason upside down, and he splits him in half, starting at the crotch.
Yes, he
And-
gets a machete through the crotch.
Yes.
And again, not to correct you, but it's actually Friday the 13th 3D.
Oh, totally. You're
Yeah.
right. Absolutely right. I think somebody.
They have dropped it in years in its theatrical release. It was Friday the 13th 3D, and then after that, from now on, in flat.
Tried so hard in the 80s to bring back 3D. For all the kickback to the 50s, all the nostalgia for the 50s, they were trying to push into the 80s. 3D movies, that was one of those. It's like Patty is now trying to. He's given me a full count Floyd from SCTV.
Here, Mr. President, sign this bill. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 with this pen. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, bless. Well, anyhow, Natalie is clearly smitten with this boy, and he seems to be interested back. And
despite his scurrilous reputation.
Yeah, he seems to have a lot of girls, and Natalie's kind of a little insecure about it. But he did, well, while Tootie was off going for some stamps, because that's what you do at a basketball game. Sure, you go buy stamps. Tootie, that was Tootie being a good wingman is what it was. But he asked Natalie out on an official date, and she accepted, and they are all very excited.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go to the next scene in the cafeteria again. Tootie is really excited because she's made this popcorn, and it's because she and Natalie are going to have a night alone watching something on TV, and she hasn't seen Natalie because she's been so busy, and over the last week she's been spending all her spare time with this boy Gil, and the others do confirm that Natalie is clearly beyond smitten to the point that she is doing a lot of study dates,
Yes.
which we'll come back to do it. So that's where it is. And then Natalie comes in, and guess what? She can't hang. She has to they're wearing each other's clothes or something. So she says, I have to give Gil his shirt back. So Natalie bails on Tootie again. Tootie is pissed.
Mm-hmm.
And in our B story, Joe says that her mother has signed the forms allowing her to purchase stock because she's technically only 8. Well, Joe is 18. Joe should be able to buy stock on her own. But anyway, she buys this stock that Blair recommends, and it's called Kramer's Compact Limo Company. This is one of those jokes of compact limos are the future. You know, limos are big cars. Well, these are the little version. Ha-ha!
Be as big as the DeLorean.
Yeah. But she says, and this is interesting, she says she owns a full share. One full share. She has $30.
Yes.
It's like, that's a little bit of an expensive stock for a startup compact limo company, one share. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I think nowadays in modern times, even with the stock market plummeting and doing all its craziness, I feel like Amazon you could buy for $30 a share today.
I think so. Yeah, I just, it's not my forte, but I was just like, $30 one share.
That's she might have just said $30 quote unquote worth of stock would be the way to do it, because you have fractional shares, and I've done
because there was no payoff for having just one share. I thought, okay, there may be a deal that she's got one share, so it's got to be something at the end. Well, I'll split it with you. You can't split one share. Waka waka waka. And
oh, that's true. That could have been a joke. But actually, you can split it. You can.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Fractional shares. That is a term in the finance world.
You're so smart.
Yes. Oh, start. Anyhow, so that's what happens in that scene. Anything else in that scene strike you, bring up any memories or feels that you need to be felt?
This episode does raise up, especially in teens. This does definitely raise up because teens are figuring it on out, and they do compartmentalize. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're in a relationship now, so we can only be with other people in a relationship, and the single, bestie, friend, whatever, is cut off, as we see in this episode. And
no, I think that's I think that's a valid.
This episode is very true to life at its core. for kids this age to kind of see this. That's why I give it props. So
yeah. If Natalie was 35, then that makes her a bad person. The fact that she's 16 and doing this, you're like, of course, this is literally what the show is about, navigating this stuff as you are learning as you go in your adolescence. Totally.
Exactly. And I'm glad early on, she doesn't, Charlotte Rae doesn't step up, but then she does, which is good. We'll get into that. But the stage is definitely set for, Tootie helped create this relationship, and it's become her Frankenstein monster.
Yes. Oh, beautifully put. Beautifully nerdy, I do have to say. So then the next scene, we are in the lounge. And Natalie and Blair are having some girl talk time. Oh, by the way, there is a running thing that I kind of love where every time they have to talk seriously, like boy talk or have a hard heart, it's always come in the lounge. They always have to go over and retreat to the couch. It's not really a joke, but it is a nice little running thing. And I've said before, I love the lounge, or the parlor, I sometimes call it. That's a lovely little running thing in this episode. But as Natalie and Blair are having girl talk, just Natalie kind of really and truly, you can kind of get the idea of the social currency of having a boyfriend, in that Blair has had so many boyfriends that Natalie is now able to talk to Blair about this thing, and they can now bond in this way. It's kind of nice that they picked up on that and included it in this episode.
As an outsider, I would never have known that, but I guess it does make sense that for Natalie, not only is, I guess this is probably the first real love interest she's gotten that's reciprocated, but she's she's outside of her weight class, no pun intended. She's really kind of ahead of her curve. So this is a popular, well-liked boy, and she's not frumpy or anything, but I mean, she's a 5 and her boyfriend right now is a 7.
Okay, who is an 8 or a 9 or a 10 according to Patty Hawkins? When putting aside that the older ones are 18, this isn't creepy, or you can say you were young when they were young too.
If I was at that age bracket, I might have just gone for Joe, just because, I like tough girls, and let's face it, she's from the wrong side of the tracks, which means she's easy.
Oh no!
Or
There's
at least
about that, Patty. The boy learns his lesson, and you didn't.
Which again, in my mind at that time, is just like, oh yeah, and if she smokes cigarettes, oh man, you're in like Flynn.
Oh wow. So many straight guys who've been on the show are into Joe. They're not like, oh, well, pretty gorgeous Blair, of course. They're always, the general consensus is that, Blair, she's pretty, but wow, you can tell she's high maintenance. And Joe is so much more earthy and matter of fact and just grounded, I guess is the best word.
If we were doing Shag, Marry, Kill, I shag Joe, I kill Blair. And I would probably marry Tootie, just because all around I think she would be this would be a good person to spend the rest of my life with, if I was the type that met another human being and want to spend the rest of my life with like that.
Well, she does grow up to be an actress, so you would have had a lot in common. You two could have navigated your careers together. Yes. Tootie comes in and is like, "There's a new Lionel Richie song I want you to hear." Lionel Richie. But very quickly, Tootie tries to get included in this conversation, and she's like, "Well, I'm your best friend," And Natalie says, "Well, it's hard to explain to you. You've never been there." And Tootie's kind of like, "Well, then explain it to me." So, I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah, so, that line was harsh.
Yeah.
That line was, "Well, you've never been," like. Whoa.
And we've had issues before with them being dismissive of Tootie, with treating her like a baby. And she's only a year younger than Natalie. She is a little naive sometimes. We'll give her that. That's necessary because you do need an innocent among the group for plot purposes.
And the visual cue of her wearing braces kind of didn't just visual. It's a visual denotation that you're not quite grown up yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
that smug sense that a 17-year-old would look at a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not mature enough yet, Tootie. You'll understand when you get older.
Yeah, like me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what happens is, so then we got to get our B plot in here. Joe shows up. Joe is ecstatic. Her stock is up 1/4 point.
Woo! So
Finance.
Joe's $30 investment has become $37.50.
Oh.
Now, if she sold it, minus all the fees and the transactions and everything else, she would still be below the line. But the whole fact of the matter is that she was all like, wow, I made $5. Now, granted, in the 80s, $5 was worth a little more than $5 is now.
I could buy you a car.
Well, not quite that. But yeah. But yeah, so the whole fact of the matter is that she's gleeful and she's actually grateful to Blair.
Mm-hmm. True.
This is a weird, and I imagine that probably does not happen very often. I mean, I imagine they're always supposed to be the cats and dogs, the highbrow and the lowbrow.
You know it, yes.
And Blair, of course, giving the plebeians some of her patrician wisdom, is now like, so.
And I sure hope nothing happens later in the episode that topples this great achievement pinnacle. Gee, I sure hope so. Fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm. And I'm rather amazed that the stock of that company is actually listed in the stock reports. There
are so many questions, and we're not even economists.
I know. But that's another thing that dates this too, about how before the internet and the live feeds and everything else. I mean, if you were a professional, you had a ticker tape machine and everything else. Otherwise, you'd have to wait till the end of the day to look at the stocks in the newspaper.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you'd absolutely. But the episode commercial break happens after the phone rings, and it is Gil. Tootie answers the phone, and like you do, you just give messages to people to tell other people. You don't say, "Is Natalie there? May I speak to her, please?" It's, "Oh, hi, you're a total stranger. Would you give Natalie a message for me? I'll be at the bookstore at 6:30. At which point, Tootie says, "Okay, I'll tell her," and then turns to Natalie and says, "Gil called. He had to cancel." Evil laugh. He didn't say. And Natalie's like, "Maybe I should call him and ask what's going on." And Tootie's like, "Nah, don't call him. I heard a voice in the background, and I think it was a girl's voice." And Natalie's like, "What? He's cheating on me? Holy shit. Fuck that guy. I'm so glad I have you. At least with you, Tootie, I've got one real friend." Fade to black. Irony dripping. Yes. All right. During the commercial break, Patty, this is the getting to know you section where I like to talk to my guests and their careers.
Okay.
So if you would please give me a little bit of a McTour of your life. Give me quickly, where were you born? Where were you raised? Where did you go to school, if at all? And how did you come to Orlando?
I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, but my parents quickly moved away from there before I picked up any local colloquialisms or whatever. My
God. Oh my God for that.
My earliest memories are from a little podunk town. Actually, I thought it was podunk. Turns out it's a C-plus town in Indiana called Richmond. And my dad worked for the cable company, and by cable company, not cable TV, like he manufactured cables and stuff like that. He was in marketing and stuff, and he hated the snow, so we moved to Florida in the late 70s. And I've always considered myself to be an Indiana boy at heart, because when I moved to Florida, I went from 3rd grade to 4th grade scholastically, but socially, I went from 4th grade to like 8th grade because I was the only non-New Yorker in South Florida. And there was just a lot of just, so is there a Boy Scout troop around here? Boy Scouts, what are you, gay? So that's, that was kind of that way too. I went to college in New York. I went to School of Visual Arts for the film program for 2 years, and then I dropped out of that because I should have gone out to California. In California, they want you to make movies. In New York, they want you to make films.
Oh,
and
gotcha, yeah.
And again, too, I was full of piss and vinegar back then and stuff like that. But by the same token, so were they. There's a lot of Ponzi, snobbish intellectualism and stuff, and they're so dead set against commerce, and it was just, yeah,
Okay.
it was, yeah, like I was wrong for them, and they were wrong for me. And looking back on it, but I hung out with a lot of people in the cartooning program, many of which have been my lifelong friends still to this day. I've always been a comic book sci-fi sort of geek, was it too? So that's 20 years ago. Moved up to Orlando for 6 to 9 months, then was going to go to California, and yeah, that was 22 years ago. So, and I'm finally at the point in my life where I finally found something that I think I'm good at and I legitimately enjoy, and the people I'm doing it for literally enjoy me. I've enjoyed working for the attractions, but I've had a tumultuous history with them back and forth. I have a milk money job, and I'll just leave it at that. And but my main career I've been working on for the past 3 years has been I fell into being a host and MC at comic conventions. I do a lot of Q&As with celebrities, and I was basically inspired by about 5 years ago. I saw a really dreadful one when an actor was just by himself and is up there, and fans were just, I was saying, asking wrong questions, but there was just no. I just looked at everything and I said, this could be better. And over the years, I kind of was able to knock on some doors, and I was with a group of comedians, the Geeks of Comedy, by a lot of our Disney peers. Kevin, found it. It was Kevin White's idea, and we partnered up. We did it together. Will Hageman, Arnie Ellis. I mean, so we were doing conventions and doing some comedy there, and then I sort of from there I kind of worked my way up. I was doing a Doctor Who podcast for a couple of years, and basically I just sort of worked my way into getting a couple of opportunities to host these things. And I just sort of I came into it with, again, some of the skills that we use at Disney, and a lot of the convention world has been very static. A lot of conventions will do stuff in terms of entertainment offerings or even formats just because they've seen it done that way at other shows. And not to say that I'm Prometheus bringing fire to the uneducated, but I just was, but I was literally just like, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. And I've had some failures, but I think at this point I've really gotten to the point of, okay, I love the audience and the guests with equal energy. And that's something that a lot of people do. Some moderators. I hate the term moderator. I always say I'm a host.
What term do you prefer? Just
I
host.
say host.
Okay.
Host, because talking to somebody who is on a show with laser guns, doesn't mean political debates need to be moderated, and treaties and divorces need to be moderated. I think a Q&A should be hosted.
Tell me, who was the person that you what is at the top of your resume that I hosted a panel and this celebrity was there? What is, for you personally, what is your top? I
think I had a semi-viral moment with Alex Kingston from Doctor Who. Okay. And when we found out that Jodie Whittaker had just been announced as Doctor Who. And it went semi-viral, and of course she had a wonderful thing to it, and I'm sitting there beside her and we're laughing and whatever. So that was amusing. I had a really good one with Karen Gillan, where like everything but the kitchen sink had happened, and I'm pretty fun at, like, I'll bring people up to the stage. Some, a lot of people just don't do it. But the nice thing is that the guests have trusted me at that point that I'm not going to bring a lunatic up or whatever, or something to that effect. So,
and it's a specific skill set. Hosting is something, and we are lucky that we get to hone this skill. Usually, often in our theme park work, we get great on-the-job training for that. But for the people, it's like, oh, we have a big famous person coming to this con, so our director of accounting is going to be the one who facilitates.
Something like that, too. And
like, you need an actor, you need a performer who understands the showmanship that's necessary.
And also, too, I speak geek. And I speak actor. So I have been a cultural translator many a times. Somebody will come on.
What a great term.
Yes.
I'm now. That's what you're going to be. You are going to be my guest, cultural translator,
There
Patty
you go.
Hawkins.
There you
Wow.
go.
One other thing I want to ask you is, you do say that you're a comic book nerd, and you can facilitate these panels because you have a vast knowledge of a lot of the nerd culture things. What is the one thing you are most nerdy about?
I
He's suffering. I can see in your face. It's like, how do you sort
I
it out? They're all your children.
I have a pyramid. I have a
Go.
pyramid where like there's
Tell
one
me
thing
your
at the
pyramid.
top, and then there's two underneath that, and there's four underneath that. So the very top of the pyramid is The Prisoner, which is a
Okay.
show most people have not seen. It
That
was
would be
a
me. Yes.
yes. The short version, a James Bond-esque sort of spy quits his job,
Hmm.
is kidnapped. He wakes up in what looks like an island that's like a wonderful village resort, but it is an Orwellian prison that he is trapped there,
Uh-huh.
full
Cool.
of spooky brainwashing and 60s weirdness and all kinds of mind fuckery. And it's a perpetual stalemate. He tries to escape, he can't, but they try to break him and they can't. And it all hinges on one thing. They want to know why he resigned. That's like they one thing. So
Interesting.
it's this very cerebral sort of war, and it's very well regarded. It's I think the first episode is on YouTube for free, and by all means, like, check it out. So
Oh,
that's the pinnacle.
well, that
And
sounds cool.
so
I need to look into that. Wow. That's the thing. Nerd culture has exploded. There is, with all the content that's out there, there's too much, and I can't keep track. And before my brain explodes, let's get back to simpler times and the facts of life. We come into the cafeteria, and God bless him, Natalie's sitting there. Gil comes in, and he's mad, but he's like, "Where were you?" And she's like, "What do you mean, where was I? Where were you?" And she said, "Tootie said you canceled." And he said, "Well, I didn't." Tootie tries to sneak by, hiding herself with her binder, because that works. I've usually had success with walking through a room covering my face with a binder. But anyhow, they pretty much quickly realize what has happened. Tootie has run off to Mrs. Garrett's bedroom to help her to fold her sheets. Mrs. Garrett's like, "You don't have to help." And Tootie's like, "Yes, I do." And then Natalie comes in and they start fighting. They get into it. And in a very weird thing, Mrs. Garrett is adamant that she wants to stay out of it. You don't know the show as well, but did that strike you as weird that she wouldn't, on some level, at least try to referee and defuse the situation?
Yeah, I thought her whole narrative function in the show was, okay, this is where her character walks on in and puts her arm around both of them and gives a little
Yeah.
speech. But
And
maybe by the same token, maybe she did make that choice of, they need to hash this out so they can figure it out later.
yeah,
There's
I
some points in other shows when two guys are fighting and the other guy is backing up. No, they need this. They need
yeah,
this.
I guess it's just weird because in my mind there are two wrongs here that are brought about, as far as it's like, well, you've been ignoring your friend. Well, you fucking lied. And I don't think it would have been overstepping her bounds for Mrs. Garrett. When that does come out, it's sort of like, well, are you on my side? Oh, well, that is a good point. Well, what about this? Oh, that's a good point too. You're no help to us. And it's like, I don't know. They were just
And
trying to create
then
some comedy, and
yeah, and even at the end when she does finally decide, okay, now I'm gonna walk in here, like, oh no, this is between us,
yeah,
whackity schmackity do.
yeah, exactly. So then we go into the cafeteria, and Blair is there, and she's reading the paper, and she's like, uh-oh, fuck. Joe can't see this. Why? The stock nosedived a whole point. Joe comes in. She's already aware. She's mad and very upset. And then in comes Natalie. And Natalie is like, she can't speak. She is so furious. She's like, and it turns out what Tootie had predicted. She said, he's just using you and going to dump you after the English final. That's why all your dates have been study dates. And that's why you guys have been going to the bookstore and the library. Well, guess what? That's what he did. And then Tootie comes in with two friends. She's been trying to create a different social life for herself. And Natalie is just trying to be like, oh, I need you.
Come back begging for your old job, have you?
Yeah. And the beauty is we do have a moment where Mrs. Garrett basically says to, whoa. You're mad right now because Tootie's off with her other friends and she's not here for you. And she goes, I said that? And then she says, and then you were mad because of this, but you've been ignoring. I did that. And Natalie does kind of come up to the realization. She's like, I'm terrible. And it was really fun. It was really cute.
It was. And to the character's credit, yeah, I mean, she went through that blind teenage love stage where, again, the blinders were on. Yeah. And now it was past. You're able to say, oh, by the way, the whole time you were wearing these. It's like, I was? It's like, oh, I was.
Yeah.
So, and it's good to see her come full circle.
Yeah, and I'm wrong. I'm sorry. He didn't break up with her because of the thing. I thought that as I was making my notes. No. In fact, when Tootie says to the friends, and by the way, the friends we've seen before. We have seen both Jenny and Terry, and we've seen them before. They've only sporadically been on. Jenny's been on one other episode. This is Terry's fifth and final appearance. Terry's the African-American girl. And I like Terry. I wish they had used her more. But this is our farewell to Terry episode. But when Tootie says, guys, I think Natalie needs me now. So she goes off. And then it's like, all right, what's happening? Well, let's go into the lounge. Girl talk time again.
Right.
And what I said before is untrue. Natalie says she saw Gil with another girl. Mm-hmm. And so Natalie is just assuming the worst. And Tootie says, you just need to call him. And he's crazy about you. Tootie is now reassuring. And it's really nice. And they basically make up. And Natalie says, I've been terrible. I've been ignoring you. And now you're helping me. And Tootie says, friendships take time and care and input. And Natalie says, I need you both. I'm lost without you. I want it all.
Yeah.
And it's very perfect teenager speak.
Very speak. Yeah. Very much so. Very much so.
And then it ends with Natalie just saying, hey, the phone's right there. Call him and hash it out. And I'm here for you. And it's a lovely, beautiful reaffirmation of their friendship. And all in all, and to wrap up the B story, Joe says, I got out of the stock market. I sold it. It was just too volatile. I couldn't deal with that.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you don't sell when the stock is down. What's the matter with you? You keep it in for the long haul. The stock market is a long-term thing, not a short-term. Anyway, the finance non-expert that I am will have to step away from that one.
Right.
And so final thoughts about what did you think of this, as far as if this was your first real digestion of one of these episodes in all these years?
Well, again, I think this show was very good for who it was meant for at the time of its showing. I think that it's kind of odd because there's a lot of this show that I see reflected now in what's referred to as like the Nickelodeon Disney sort of sitcoms. Mm-hmm. The same sort of comedic timing.
Are for kids now. Yeah.
That whole what? Huh? What? Which has been satirized and stuff like that. So honestly, I see a lot of that at the beginning. But I feel like the show that they are trying to worm in a little, I won't say a lesson, but maybe an example of things.
But no, I think that's what the show. I think that's appropriate and right that you could call it a lesson, and that's what the show often, at its best, did provide.
without the obligatory, like a cartoon or something, the character like, in today's episode we saw how
Yeah.
jealousy can affect, we don't see He-Man or Shazam or other characters coming out just for those of you two kids too stupid to understand this. Racism is bad, bad,
For those of you planning to ignore your friend when you get involved in a relationship, don't do it.
Now, by the same token, though, Tootie kind of gets away with it. She probably gets a little bit, but I kind of felt I think Natalie had a more complete arc in this than Tootie did.
Yeah.
Call me
you
wrong.
wanted Tootie to get a little more comeuppance. I would have been okay with that too. If that had somehow blown up a little more in her face, that would have been kind of nice.
And there's one thing about this show that I realized as watching this through too, is that I'm sure issues today, or there's a lot of issues going on today about representation or whatever, but one thing that I kind of like about this show is that whatever social or economic or racial differences that the characters have, and I'm sure in the history of the show those have probably been touched upon, but I do just kind of like that they're all there. I like that they're all there and there's none of this heavy duty modern politicking, whatever it is. Like, no, they're four girls. They're all different, and they're all friends, roommates, and buddies, or whatever. And we're not beating you over the head with, no one has to preface this by saying, well, I come from the streets. It's like, well, I come from rich, or I come from this.
True.
Right? So, in this day and age, it just seems like, oh, we got to get hit over the head with that.
Yeah.
So, for that, I very much appreciate it. And, I can see where your fandom and other people's fandom and enjoyment of this show absolutely comes from. I did not walk into this with a smarmy, ironic Mystery Science Theater. Yeah, we're gonna watch it. No. This show's got heart.
Some shows we do that. Some shows we absolutely do that. We shit all over many of these episodes, and this is not one that calls for it. This one worked for me. It was not. It didn't fall. I know earlier, this is no diss to you. Earlier you said on a very special episode of Facts of Life. That's become such a trope, but this really isn't. This is one of those, it's just the girls hashing out a hiccup in their friendship. It's not like, Tootie, I got an abortion. It's it's a little, it's on the lighter end of the spectrum as far as subject matter and all that. And I liked it. Yeah. So, Patty, thank you so much for hopping on the Skype and whizzing through these magical airwaves and wires that bring you into my home. I hope to have you back. And this has been fun. I hope you've had fun, too.
I absolutely have. Please, I would love to come back anytime, talk about this really interesting and fun cast, this fun show, and all the other rabbit holes we went into. And by all means, if you want to have me back for a sideline sequel, we could talk about Surf 2, or we could talk about the career of Lyle Wagner, because any excuse to go back and watch episodes of Super Train, I'm down for.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, we will see if we can make that happen. All right. Thank you so much, my darling, for being on the show. Smooches and goodbye.
Bye.
And there you have it. That was Patty Hawkins. He is a profoundly well-versed man in the nerd culture, as I'm sure you could tell. I'm going to put his social media links in the show notes. You can follow him on Twitter or Instagram and see some of the pictures of the cool celebs that he has been able to meet through the panels that he has hosted at the cons. It's pretty cool. And I cannot believe he actually knew the byline to Surf 2, that he knew the end of the trilogy. That is insane to me. I will post a link to the whole movie on YouTube on the webpage as well. Patty did refer to an episode where Mrs. Garrett dates a younger man, and I said I didn't remember that one. I figured it was coming up ahead. No, that is an episode from the past. It is a Different Strokes episode. It was season 2, episode 4 of Different Strokes, called Mrs. Garrett's Romance. I will post a link to that on the webpage. And funny things to notice from the episode. Number 1, Mrs. Garrett is going to night school. She has met this younger man through attending classes at night school because, she hasn't done enough with her life in all of her multiple careers. And all she refers to is a self-awareness class. And she says, I'm broadening my horizons and expanding my consciousness. So she's studying self-awareness. I don't recall there being a course. Is that like a psychology course? Huh. And the other thing is that the younger man she's involved with is played by Philip Charles Mackenzie, whom you will remember in the 80s as being on the TV show Brothers as the super gay guy. And then he was on the TV show Open House with Alison LaPlaca. That was one of the early Fox shows. And Ellen DeGeneres' first sitcom where she was a supporting player. And then he would actually go on to become a very respected TV director. And many, many credits from him that you can find on the IMDb's. Last two things about the episode is that we never hear about Gil ever again. So I guess we can assume that the phone call that Natalie is making at the end of the episode doesn't go well, I guess. I don't know. Other little, just random, silly, stupid David thing. When Tootie gives Natalie the coin to use for the payphone, she pulls it from behind her patch on her cardigan. The patches are pockets. I'm going to say that again. The patches are pockets. I have never heard of that. Have you? If you have, message me. Let me know. I think it was just a very, very convenient thing because the rest of the costume doesn't have any pockets on it anywhere. Just a completely thing done out of convenience. And the last bit of information is I've talked about Assad Khalada before and his involvement with Who's the Boss, but I've always been kind of uncertain. Well, I actually looked it up because, the information is out there. Of the 196 episodes of Who's the Boss, Assad Khalada directed 117 of them. By contrast, of the 201 Facts of Life episodes, he directed 77 of them. And so his, with Who's the Boss, he directed a larger number of episodes and a larger percentage of overall episodes of that. So Who's the Boss is really a bigger thing in his career than the Facts of Life is. Now let's move on to next week. Next week I'm going to be watching Season 4, Episode 21, Help from Home. And I'm going to be joined by returning guest, actor, singer, puppeteer, funny guy, improviser, Wesley Slade, who's also a very good friend of mine. That's all for this week's show. Thank you so much for listening. I will also add, in these weird times, please be safe, be sane, and stay healthy. And remember, the facts of life are all about you. Let's Face the Facts was produced, written, hosted, and edited by me, David Almeida. My theme song was beautifully arranged and recorded by Ned Wilkinson. Our website is facethefactspod.com. You have to drop the lets. And that's where you can find extra pictures, video, and audio extras from the digital cutting room floor. Follow the show on social media. We're everywhere under the handle Face the Facts Pod. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/FaceTheFactsPod. And don't forget, go to your favorite podcatchers and subscribe, rate, and review. Tune in again next week for another thrilling episode of Let's Face the Facts.